and that is the University of Missouri president resigning amid striking football players. So the black football players at the University of Missouri have joined calls demanding the ouster of the president of the state's four-campus university system over alleged inaction against racism on campus. About 30 players made their thoughts known Saturday night in a tweet posted by Missouri's Legion of Black Collegians. The tweet read, quote, "The athletes of color on the University of Missouri football team," I like how they say athletes of color, I thought we were beyond that, but whatever, "on the University of Mississippi football team truly believe injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." How great, that's a great quote right there. "We would no longer participate in any football-related activities until President Tim Wolf resigns or is removed due to his negligence towards marginalized students' experience." So this so-called movement, called Concerned Students 1950, was spearheaded by a graduate student named Jonathan Butler, who decided on November 2nd to go on a hunger strike until Wolf resigned and changes in the way the university handled racial issues went into effect. Butler wrote to Missouri officials stating, "Students are not able to achieve their full academic potential because of the inequalities of obstacles they face. In each of these scenarios, Mr. Wolf had ample opportunity to create policies and reform that could shift the culture of Mizzou in a positive direction. But in each scenario, he failed to do so." So let's go over these, quote, scenarios that Butler is talking about. In September, Peyton Head, the head of Missouri Student Association, which I'm guessing is black, which he was obviously elected to that, so they can't be too racist, said people driving by him in a truck called him racial slurs. Ooh, it's bad. On October 24th, a swastika made of feces was smeared on the wall of a dorm bathroom. So, I think the Jewish body should protest as well.
Okay, but let me just stop you right there, because I think you've said many offensive things in the last 3 minutes.
That's what I do here.
You said at the beginning, a great quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And, to say that, these two, to try to minimize these two situations, kind of, doesn't back what you just said, because, you're saying that the Jewish student body should protest when there's a swastika on campus. I mean, can other people of other ethnicities, not understand the struggle that other ethnicities face? I mean, of course they can. That's ridiculous. I mean, I am a white female Mississippian, and I completely understand and appreciate the, Black Lives Matter movement. And to say that so-called movement or, the alleged scenario minimizes the actual events that happened that discriminated against individuals of the student body.
Well, here's what I find. This is what it is to me, is that I want to know what they expected Wolf to do. I mean, it's not like Wolf was the one spouting racial slurs at people from his truck. I mean, what would they have him do?
Well,
I mean, do they want him to chase down these people, or do they want him to ban speech on campus?
Inaction speaks louder. And
what was he going to do to these people?
But how can you have all this happen on your campus and say nothing? Your inaction speaks to what you believe.
But what could he have done?
Well, he could have. You can see what the measures that we took at our school.
It's measures that nobody likes.
Well,
they took down a flag. That's all they did here.
Well, that's not true. You can see the whole situation with Chancellor Dan Jones and all of that. It stemmed from political backfire from the changes that he made on this campus.
Well, Dan Jones, he was according to the.
I know it said according to the report, but
yeah, he was a crook.
Okay, Dan Jones was not a crook. That's offensive.
He was taking contracts without putting them out to be the bidding process. He was giving contracts to his friends.
Let's move on from Dan Jones, because you're incorrect in that, and that's a different story.
Okay.
But I think Dan Jones, the moves that he made on this campus is, should have been analogous to the moves that Missouri should have made, and they didn't do anything, and that speaks louder than.
To me, this president, who's not the head of the university, they have a chancellor who's ahead of him. There's not a whole lot he could have done. He can't go out there with his gun and go out and get these guys in the truck. I mean,
of course not, but you can address inequality on your campus. And, whether that be through, an inclusion policy or, as simple as a statement. Inaction.
Plus, you look at it from the president's point of view here. He didn't know. These are just reports coming out. As far as the guys in the truck, he can't jump to conclusions.
No, it does not matter. If a student reports a racial slur to you, you do not question if it actually happened. You address racial inequality.
So you go after people without any evidence.
Well, I'm not telling them. I'm not saying go after these people if there's no evidence.
That's pretty much what they want.
Well, no,
they don't want statements.
They want you to address it. They want you to change the environment on your campus. And if someone, carves a swastika and I don't know, a building, there's a report of it happening here on campus. I don't know if it was actually, ever reported, but I did hear about it, of the swastika being carved into a car seat. When stuff like that happens, you don't just sit there. Even though it was one individual, it doesn't matter. You address the entire campus and you let them know that this is not okay and you will not stand for it. And you not doing that, it speaks louder than anything else.
But they don't just want statements. They want action. Of
course they want action. They want inclusion policies. They want sensitivity trainings. They want...
I love that sensitivity training.
It's a valid request. If you don't feel comfortable on your campus because of your race or ethnicity, it is a valid request for you to want your officials to stand up for you.
And what about the racism on their part? After all, the group is called the Legion of Black Collegians. Now, that does not sound very inviting to those of us with a lighter skin.
That's ridiculous. That's analogous to calling the NAACP racist. That is not true.
They are racist. No question on that.
That is not true. These types of groups are formed in order
they care about other people besides black people.
I'm a member of the NAACP, and I'm a white female. So I absolutely believe that the NAACP, speaks in order to advance a group that has been marginalized, and I agree with their cause. It's not racist for marginalized groups to organize in order to advance their message. They almost have to because of the white privilege surrounding them. And so I think calling a group like that racist is just, kind of discounts your argument for the rest of the time if you think that this group is racist just because they decided to organize.
I have no doubt they're racist. They only care about their own race. They don't care about all the races. They want preference for their race. They don't care about what happens to white people on campus.
That is not true. And the fact that you're saying that black people don't care about white people is racist in itself.
I said these groups, like the Legion of Black Collegians. These groups are, in themselves, racist.
They're not. They're there in order to advance a message that they couldn't do by themselves. They don't have white privilege. They don't get to walk around and say something and everybody...
No, they have black privilege.
Black privilege is not a thing. And I think, as a white male, saying that black privilege is a thing just, further proves your white privilege.
These football players obviously have their privilege. They're getting here on their free scholarship. They think they can do all this stuff with, they can say, okay, we're not going to practice, we're not going to do any of these things if you don't do what we say. That's a privileged attitude, isn't it?
Well, no, and I don't think so. And I also, this is another point, and this is not to discount, their name, Legion of Black Colleagues. I think it brings up another point, and aside from this, and I don't want to distract from this argument but I'm just bringing up a side point, is that, it's almost sad to consider that it takes athletes, threatening football for people to listen when you have, someone from academia who's been protesting for months. And so that's a separate point. I'm not trying to distract from the clear discrimination they face. I'm just saying that also...
And they haven't pointed out to any discrimination they face in that campus. What discrimination have they pointed out?
Well, one of the members of the organization was targeted with racial slurs.
I've been targeted with racial slurs.
That's ridiculous. To think that you've been discriminated against as a white male is 100% the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
I've been discriminated against multiple times. In fact, if you look at it with things like affirmative action, white males are discriminated at the institutional level now.
They are not discriminated against. White males are not discriminated against because of affirmative action.
What does affirmative action do?
Are you asking this is a pop quiz for affirmative action? I'm saying affirmative action helps advance groups.
What groups?
Well, minorities, different minority ethnicities. It helps advance groups who otherwise wouldn't have the same chances as a white male or a white female.
So the white male, he has to get downgraded in order to give these people the chance.
Well, I mean,
which is discrimination by and of itself. What is the definition of discrimination?
Well, no, you're not. If you make as a white male, if you make an A, and as a black male, if he makes a C, that's not affirmative action. If he's not going to get ahead of you with the C.
I'm saying
when you're analogous grades and analogous, circumstances regarding your application, then the struggles that he's faced in his life as an ethnicity,
the white male therefore hasn't faced any. If you've grown up in a poor,
but that's also a factor.
So shouldn't those things?
They do.
Shouldn't those things be used as a factor? Not
but
race.
They do. Race should be a factor as well.
I mean, can you not have rich black people?
Well, I didn't say that at all. I'm saying that your argument that you're saying your circumstances, like your poverty,
those should matter more than your inherent qualities like race. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, why is poverty not an inherent either? I mean,
race should not matter. It should not matter at all.
Okay,
people should be colorblind when we're doing things.
Well, colorblind. I mean, come on. I mean, we can say colorblind when society is actually colorblind. And right now, society sees color. Society sees if you're a black male. Society sees if you're a Hispanic woman. You can look at statistics. You can look at, anything to tell you that. And you can be colorblind. You can say you're colorblind all you want, but you can't really be colorblind until society itself is colorblind. And it's not.
It'll never be.
Well, then, what is the argument here? Why are you arguing against...
But what I'm saying is when you have these policies that target race, when you target race, all you're doing is creating anger and animosity toward the other race. And so if you take out all race-based policies and focuses mainly on things such as where you came from or like your...
you're saying that if we just say we're colorblind, then automatically society
will
forget their prejudices.
We should not have formal policies that address race. We should not have them. Policies in law should be colorblind. How people interpret that's going to be
but if you say that, and then what was the point of the Voting Rights Act? What was the point of the Civil Rights Act?
So what does the Civil Rights Act say?
But I'm saying if you're saying that we don't need to have laws to help.
The Civil Rights Act says we should not look at things based on race, sex, color, religion, national origin. It says we cannot.
It's saying you're not going to be judged on that fact, based solely on that fact.
Exactly.
But that's to prevent discrimination.
Exactly.
Exactly. I don't understand what you're saying then.
Then we should not have anything based on race. We shouldn't have things that say, okay, you're black, we're going to give you a step up.
That's not the law. The law is to help marginalized groups.
We're going to give you preference.
We don't have a law that says black people get everything they want. That's what you think, and that's not true.
That's not what I think. I'm saying what they get is they get that preference, which shouldn't be there just because of an inherent quality such as color. Color should not be considered in anything.
Black males as a whole have to undergo way more discrimination and hardship in their life than a white male solely based on the color of their skin. And then you can think of, where they might be now. You can see that black children in Mississippi are 5 times more likely to grow up in a household underneath the poverty line. And that's not because black children are, deserve that or did that to themselves. It's because their parents were marginalized by white ancestors.
Then their poverty should be considered, not their race. The fact that they had to grow up in that single household.
We are only 51 years removed from Freedom Summer. Things in Mississippi have not gotten to the point where you can say we should discount race. Because race is involved in every single institution in Mississippi, from public education into the church and to everything race is involved in, and we can't discount that.
And what these policies do, all they do is further divide people because these people feel.
And I'm sorry if white males feel attacked because black people get opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten. But that's simply not true.
Anytime you have
the NAACP does not create racial tension.
Absolutely they do.
That's not true. That's just not true.
But to move on from this, going back to Tim Wolf. We have to get going here. He said in his speech there at the very end that this is not the way to get change. Yet by resigning, he is only encouraging it. Just like a dog, if you give him a treat every time he jumps on the bed, you can't expect him not to jump on the bed anymore. You have trained them. According to these groups' own tweets, they don't want to talk things out. But the tweet reading, "We are tired of dialogue, we want action."
Because the things he was saying. He was saying, we need to listen and we need to care, and that's how you affect change. But Tim Wolf didn't listen and he didn't care. And so when you have that empty rhetoric for months, you do want action.
Well, the fact is, Tim Wolf could not have satisfied these groups because these groups don't want equality. All they want is to assert their belief superiority. They believe they are above everyone else and expect to be treated as such.
I'm sorry. Are you saying that black students are trying to assert their beliefs?
Not the black students, these people in this league of black
that's ridiculous. The whole point of their protest is to combat inaction on attacks against them. To say they feel as if they're superior is
they
ridiculous.
Absolutely feel they do. That's why they do these things.
That's not true.
These groups do not bring people together. They only drive us further apart. This group will probably create drastic change on the university. They've already implemented these sensitivity trainings and stuff like that. And then when the university fails to their demands, it makes the rest of the student body feel inferior, which drives the hate.
The notion that groups such as this or the Black Student Association makes the student body feel inferior is ridiculous. For so long, black individuals have been marginalized by society and discriminated against, and their organization makes you feel inferior. That sounds to me more like a problem with minority students advancing in society despite all that has held them back, and having a problem with that is absurd.
Now, to these university officials, these university officials are getting pathetic with their spinelessness. This reminds me of a passage in one of Robert Bork's books, and Robert Bork's one of the greatest jurists who ever lived. It's when he was a professor at Harvard Law School, the student body gave the faculty, who was mostly liberal even at that time, an invitation to hear them lecture them. And by lecture, I mean berate them. Most of the law faculty actually was stupid enough to show up to this. They just always cave into these people. It's time university officials grew a pair and stood up to these groups and protect all members of the student body, not just those that are the loudest. If they didn't give in to their demands, they would be surprised at what might happen. Now, this Butler guy, he is no Gandhi. He wouldn't have starved himself to death over this. And if he is that stupid, more power to him. Just one less idiot in the world. Plus, I guarantee you he snuck in a Ritz cracker every now and then.
What if he did? It's symbolic. What he was doing, it proves that someone was willing to take this huge sacrifice in order to promote social justice. And I don't think you should discount
he just wanted
that
attention.
And call him an idiot. He did not want attention.
He wanted attention.
He didn't want it. He wanted attention to the problem.
He wanted
because
no one.
Well, that's not true. That would be calling, saying Martin Luther King just wanted justice for himself. That's not true. That he wanted to call attention to the problem, and he did. He succeeded in that. So more power to him.
Exactly. You cannot allow these kind of tactics to work on your university. You have to stand up to the student body and say, we're not going to bow to your commands. We are in charge here. Now this all kind of surprised me because this all happened despite the fact their state flag doesn't have a Confederate symbol on it. It just goes to show you people will hate each other no matter what you do.